But why Tunis? Why did you do Life of Brian in Tunis? Had you always wanted to see Tunis?
No.
I just...
Have you ever been there?
No, but it apparently looks more biblical than the Holy Land or something.
There is also the worst hotel in the world.
Well, I thought I had found it, but I'm willing to be convinced.
Where is yours?
Well, I've been in several, and isn't this awful? At the moment, all I can think of is they change the sheets every day from one room to another. Which is a line I either wrote or stole years ago.
Well, we stayed in the Hotel Oasis in Gabes. G-A-B-E-S. It's really... I went to the front desk just after I got there, and I said to the man in my appalling French, "Excuse me, there's no glass in my room." And he said proudly, "There are no glasses in any of the rooms." So I said, "Well, could I have one?" And he said, "Why?" I said, "Well, I have a sore throat. I want to take a pill." And he said, "Get one from the bar." And that was the first 2 minutes there. And it went on like that with the two most malevolent breakfast waiters I've ever come across.
Is it possible someone was putting you on, thinking, let's see how much of this they'll take before they...
Because they were the only hotel in town, you see, so they were in that monopoly situation, like the English telephone service, you know.
Yes, that seems to be true of telephone companies in general. They don't really have enough competition. John, do you have any... it's a boring old question, but are there any living or dead comic idols of yours? Do you feel you've modeled yourself on or been influenced by anybody in particular when you see...
I think it's very difficult to tell who you've been influenced by, but the funny thing is that 3/4 of the comics that I really adore have been American, either American or like Chaplin and Laurel, you know, worked here. And you go back to all the same names. Harpo Marx, I think, is a genius. W.C. Fields, Keaton, Oliver Hardy, I think, is underrated. I think he's wonderful. And then coming up into sort of post-war, all the really funny stuff on English television in the mid-30s was Burns and Allen. George Burns, I think, is a wonderful comic.
And claims not to be one, but to be a straight man.
I know. I think he's just wonderful. And then there are one or two English, like Spike Milligan. I don't know if your viewers are aware of Spike, but he did the Goon Show, which very much was our forerunner. Peter Cook?
Sure.
Yeah.
Cook would be someone you... are you younger than Cook?
Slightly, 2 years.
Now, all of the Monty Pythons were at Harvard, Harvard, sorry about that. We're at Cambridge and the other place, Oxford and Cambridge, but we're not brought together until the BBC.
That's, well, there was a kind of golden period at Cambridge. It was very odd, and it sometimes happens this way, doesn't it? That over a period of 4 or 5 years, one particular institution suddenly produces a lot of people who are really good at comedy. And we had about 5 years of it, starting with Jonathan Miller, through Peter Cook and Monty Python. Oxford, on the other hand, they're a very feeble, shambolic lot. I don't know if you've ever met them. They wear hairy jackets, and they always turn up late.
They're very... who those people are in those hairy jackets. They're Oxford people.
They're Oxford people, yes. Oh. They're very pleasant. They're very... But don't ask them to do anything, you know.
I wouldn't dream of it.
Oh, that's not what I'd heard.
Well, what will happen now with the Monty Python group? Will it continue to be film, or do you still go on stage from now and then? I know you played New York on the stage, and
that's we've got lazier and lazier, and I've also I'm terrible about repetition now. I mean, you go on stage. Yes, I mean, I really think it's wonderful that actors are prepared to go on stage each night and do it again and again and again. I think it's extraordinary. But bless them, because otherwise writers wouldn't make a living. But it's certainly nothing that I want to do. And I mean, acting in a film is horrible because you have to get up early, and you have to have makeup put and all these uncomfortable things. But you do get a whole series of quite exciting little problems to solve each day. Whereas, as I say, television in England is awful because the whole thing is made in such a terrible rush. I mean, something like 40 Towers. It's made in a day in the studio, and it is always a desperate last-minute improvisation, and at the end of the day, the triumph is to have got the thing finished. If it's any good, it's a bonus. See what I mean?
Congratulate yourselves on getting through it.
Yes, you actually did the show. Yeah.
I read your resume, and at one point you were had a journalistic career going in America. You worked for Newsweek.
That's right.
And in your resume, it simply says, employed by Newsweek, whatever the date, failed, period, resigned, period. Are there spicy details to that we should know about?
Well, not really. I just couldn't do it. I mean, I would love to have become a journalist, and it was about international affairs which interested me, and a lovely guy called Everett Martin, whom I should call before I go back to London, got me the job. And then, unfortunately, he was taken away from the office, and I needed somebody really to say, don't say it like that. You know, I needed a mentor, somebody to teach me, and I couldn't do it. And I was a little ashamed, and I'd wasted their money, and I liked Bob Christopher, the editor, very much, and I said, I just wrote a little note before I was fired, you know.
And left and never went back to journalism?
Quickly, straight off.
Yeah. Now, what will you do when you go back? Will you start, when you're back to England, will you start?
Well, I'm trying not to work, quite seriously, because I've done 15 years of hard work, and I just thought it would be lovely to have a completely fallow period.
You were 30
very difficult.
You were 30 when this began. You're 40
That's right.
now. Do you see yourself as a python at 50?
It's an awful thought, isn't it?
Is it?
Sort of aged, greying men dressed as chickens, you know?
Well, if you had to go to, say, an English-speaking country where they had never heard of the pythons and you wanted to show them their best shot or anything you've been connected with in television, would it be Fawlty Towers? Would it be the Parrot sketch? Do you have a favorite?
I do love the Parrot sketch. It's the one thing each night on stage I was able to look forward to. And it was very nice because the Python audiences are very strange. And I remember doing it at Drury Lane one night with Michael, and I really loved performing with Michael. He's a really wonderful guy to be. You know, the timing is terrific. And we often break up on stage, and I remember I broke up and got my face straight and suddenly realized I had no idea where I was. None at all. And it being the relaxed occasion that it was, I turned to the front row and I said, what's the next line? And about 4 of them gave it to me. Yes. So I said the line, and that got a laugh.
You know you have hold of a classic at that point. Well, John, we didn't really mutilate your surface, but we scratched it a little bit tonight, and it was wonderful having you here.
Really enjoyed it.
You're pleasantly unfunny and delightfully funny, and that's a wonderful combination. That was supposed to come out as a compliment. We'll while his blush is going down, we'll say good night, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Bye.
Public television's cooking star, Julia Child, joins Dick tomorrow at this time. 30 minutes from now, join us for the McNeil Lear Report, right after Over Easy.